At this time, I'd like to call a regular meeting of the Inland Wetland Commission, the Town of Wallingford Inland Wetland Commission. The time is 7:01, and the date is Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. Please join me in pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Roll call.
Nick Kern.
Jim Vitale.
Deborah Phillips.
Jim Heilman.
Turn your mic on.
Aaron O'Hare, Environmental Planner.
Okay, we're going to get the minutes straightened out. We have the regular minutes from the regular meeting of December 4th. There was a few corrections to be made that didn't get done by the last meeting. Aaron included those in our packet. Is there any comments regarding the correction to the minutes? Then I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of Wednesday, December 4th, 2024, with including the corrections in the memo from February 26, 2025.
Motion made. Is a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call for a vote. Nick?
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Yes. The minutes from the regular meeting of February 5th. Is there any comments regarding the minutes of February 5th? If none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of February 5th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made in second. Any discussion? Call for a vote. Nick?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Jimmy?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, going on to public hearing. I'm going to open, this is a continuation from the public hearing of last month. It's application A 2410.3, 1000, 1020, 1030, 1044, and 1080 Barnes Road and 777 Northrop Road, Midwood Management.
Good evening. For the record again, James Perito from Halloran and Sage, representing the applicant. The property at 1000, 1020, 1030, 1044, and 1080 Barnes Road. Midwich Management Corp. is under application A2410.3. With me is the owner's representative, Kevin Cornell, and our engineering group, OOC Design Consortium, David Carson, is able to join us this session, and George Cotter. Our environmental wetlands expert, George Logan from REMA, is not able to be here tonight, but he's been working with both Dave and George and Aaron to answer any and all remaining questions. As you know, the overall proposal plan is to develop 3 industrial warehousing storage buildings. The environmental planner had sent several memos, November 27th, January 3rd, January 31st, February 28th, as well as comments from other town departments dated January 10th, 17th, and February 14th. Our team submitted updated and revised site plans and drawings on January 31st, as well as a comprehensive reply and revision on February 27th to address all of the comments, as well as the town engineer's comments. On February 27th, myself, George Logan, George Cotter, and Dave Carson spent several hours with Aaron reviewing all of the questions, comments, and explaining all the revisions. So we believe we've gone through everything and answered all the questions. We submitted an updated stormwater management plan that filled out some more of the questions that she had, and an updated supplemental wetlands assessment. It's important to note that REMA sent in just a letter update that addressed some of the concerns and sort of supplemented because George could not be here tonight. We also submitted an alternatives analysis, which is set out in your regulations, so that's in there as well. We believe we've addressed all the comments to date. We've seen a draft approval with conditions, and the owners looked at the conditions and they all seem to be fine. We have no issues with those. At this point, I will hand it over to Mr. Cotter, Mr. Carson, to answer any questions that you may have that are still outstanding. I don't believe there's any, but I would ask that when we're finished with that, we close the public hearing and hopefully make a decision.
Yes, sir. Microphone. We're on a microphone kick tonight. Do you want to run us through your plan quickly? Do you have it with you?
George Cotter for the record. Mr. Chairman, this is the overall 47-acre parcel located on Old Barnes and Northrop Road. It's broken down into 3 separate phases, Building 1, Building 2, Building 3, with access off Old Barnes Road, an existing crossing of a wetland that was approved back in '94, which was installed. And we are proposing an extension of property at 777 Barnes Road, which we left an access way to the rear of the property through an old farm road, crossing a ditch that runs, and an intermittent water course that runs down through the property to North Farms Reservoir. In the initial approval back in '94, we installed a stormwater basin at this vicinity, which is still there. And we have proposed construction beginning with Building 1, Building 2, and finally with Building 3. In the plans, we showed the details of how each phase would be constructed. We have 3 stormwater basins. We're proposing this one to deal with Building 1. It will discharge back into Northrop and Route 68 drainage. The second basin is located here. This basin will take water from Building 3, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4 underground stormwater management galley systems that we talked about last meeting, where we at that time enlarged the area underneath the galleys in order to infiltrate the first inch of rain in all the stormwater facilities. We've proposed cleaning up this basin. There is a level spreader here that was constructed also back in '94. We were doing maintenance to remove brush on either side of it, and we're cleaning around this basin. There is a 3,000-gallon oil water separator and a 4,000-gallon oil water separator that was already installed as part of that plan. And we have added oil water separators 2 for this galley system, 1 for this to drain into the detention basin, 1 here, and 2 for the rear portion galleys, and 2 up on this vicinity to clean the water as before it gets to the galley system. And then these will discharge water back to the wetlands along a 300-some foot length, 400-foot length, and a 300-foot length. So we're recharging the water back into the ground. We're also discharging it very slowly. Peak discharges out of the galley system is between 1 and 2 CFS max. This drawing shows our wetland activities, which is the extension of 8 feet of culvert to widen it up, the existing access way to the rear. And this area in red is filling of a wetland in order to provide for this access into the building 3. We used one-to-one slopes with riprap in order to minimize the disturbance in the wetlands. And the green areas show our upland review areas that we propose our activities within 50 feet of the wetlands. If you have any questions at this time, I'd be willing to answer them.
Thought I did.
The public hearing continued, right?
Any questions, Jimmy?
No.
Deb?
No.
And I don't have any. And Commissioner Kearns is going to accuse himself on this application. So, all right. So there's no questions. Now, have you gone over all the conditions of approval that Aaron asked for?
Yes, we did.
Now, is that, I heard you mention about all the different dates that she gave you information back. Do you have the 5th of March?
I do, and I just checked it against the draft that I had, and there's a change in the order of things, but it's the same.
So you are in agreement with all the conditions of approval of March 5th?
Correct.
Well, if there's not much, what?
I'm sorry, maybe, did I miss that Commissioner Heilman is going to be voting tonight, or?
What's that?
Did I miss who's voting tonight?
Well, there's only 4 people here. They're all voting. I didn't realize I had to specify who's voting.
No, I thought Commissioner Kern is recusing.
Excused himself.
Okay, so then it's,
There's just the 3 voting.
okay, so Jim Heilman as alternate is sitting in for,
Caruso or
okay.
Jeff?
Just to be clear, all right?
Yep.
And I had a comment about, should I speak on this?
Well, I don't know. They're agreeing to all your conditions. I don't think you need to comment anymore.
Well, I just thought for the purposes of the public hearing,
Well-
that Mr. Cotter might want to run through the eight new sheets that came in last Thursday.
What's
Like-
that?
Like he ran through the whole project
Right?
in summary, but the 8 new sheets that came in last Thursday, what was so different about them? Why were they needed? Why did we have to go through that exercise?
I think it's been protected and been discussed. The fact that it is a public hearing, I want to turn it over. I want to get to the public. Any comments from the public? There's no comments from the public, no questions, so I'm not sure there's a need for that.
All right, and the commissioners just got my report tonight because it's a big project, and of course it came in.
You know my feeling about generating reports the night of the meeting.
But it sums up the project, so we do need that for the file. It sums it up. Now, I want to point out 2 figures I forgot to put in here. Can we put them in here? Only because I was printing it a few minutes before the meeting, and I forgot these figures to insert them. So it's like a typo if we could insert them. On the top of page 2, and this goes for the applicant as well, the copy I gave them doesn't have the math that I was doing. on the top of page 2. Before I tell you the figures, nothing changed. What the applicant, the square footages that they gave me are the totals are the same. It's just I rearranged everything. So it seems different because they were calling certain activities in wetlands, they were saying it was maintenance. And as this memorandum explains, that I don't consider it maintenance, that when something was built in 1994,
Well, wait a minute. The question is what's being filled, and whether it's maintenance or it's new
Right.
construction.
Right.
That's the only answer. 94 isn't
Right.
immaterial here.
Okay,
do you
so
want to put a number in there?
yes, I would have
What
put
number
it
do
in
you
if
wanna
I had
put
it
in
for
there?
more time. Top of page 2.
What do you
Okay.
want to put in there?
In that question where it says question mark on the top of page 2,
Yeah.
I did the math, and it's 7, the number is 7,778 square feet for the total filling in wetlands. And then the next one down, the next arrow under that, that figure was left out. It should be for the roadway. I'm using the figure they use for the roadway, and it's 4,735 square feet. So that's the number for the roadway. The reason it's a bigger filling for the total wetlands is I'm folding in the level spreader because the level spreader and all its improvements happen in the wetlands. So I'm using their figure, which is 3,093 square feet, which was their figure for the level spreader, except they were calling it maintenance, and I'm calling it an activity inside a wetland. Now, as the commission knows today, we wouldn't approve a level spreader in the wetland, but it's there, it's fine. The water, as I explain in here, the drainage goes the same place. The drainage from the building and the driveway is going to end up eventually in the wetlands anyway.
Okay, anybody got any more concerns? Because we're going to move on. There's no concerns. Wait a second. Any comments from the public regarding this public hearing? Yes, Mr. Carson.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I don't believe we're in any disagreement with staff with regard to the numbers, the square footage of the different activities. But we certainly disagree with the fact that the wetland filling is 7,000 square feet. Regardless of whether the level spreader is considered maintenance or whatever it is, there's no filling. The wetland filling
No,
is-
you're right. You're absolutely right. That should be activity, wetlands activity.
Oh,
That's my mistake, yes.
total proposed wetland activity instead
Yes,
of
it should
filling?
be, activity. Good catch, thank you. Thank you. Going too fast, going too fast.
Okay, it can be noted there's some controversy regarding the square footage, whether it's activity, whether it's filling or not. Okay? All right, if there's no other comments, then I will close the public hearing.
Thank you,
Time
Mr. Chair.
would be 8:21. Right? 7:21, sorry. Little glare on the clock. Thanks, Nick. All right. Now, we already determined significant activity, correct? Then I'll entertain whether the commission wants to act on this public hearing tonight. Do they want to act on it? Jim, comment?
I have no issues about acting on it.
Deb?
Yes?
Yes. So I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny this application.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that application A24-10.3, 1,000, 1020, 1030, 1044, 1080 Barnes Road, and 777 Northrop Road be approved with the conditions of approval in the Environmental Planners Report of March 5th, numbers 1 through 14.
Motion made. Is there a second?
I will second.
Motion is made in second. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to make a closing comment. It's a big project. It's in what was formerly beautiful farmland. We've discussed that. And our commission is charged with doing the best possible job of allowing progress to continue and at the same time protect the most sensitive parts of our environment, the wetlands. I think this application shows a significant effort in that direction. Um, Just to highlight a couple of those very, very quickly, first flush is something that this commission years ago never even considered. Now it's common practice, and it's a very good thing, reason being, and this is something that I think is important to the public. When a parking lot or any roadway is used continually for periods of time, it tends to collect lots of things that are not healthy for anything. And rains have a tendency to clean that. It's a natural process of nature. So it comes in and flushes the roadways, the rooftops, everything else. And what this application is doing with that is it's addressing that first initial cleansing flush of any rain. Small ones tend to be very important in this initial cleansing. We're trapping that with this first flush concept, very important. The other thing important with this application, I feel, is the attempt to mimic nature. And that's being done here by an extensive utilization of infiltration of the most clean water we have in the area, the rooftops. And given an opportunity to utilize that, it's been done rather extensively and I think well developed in ways that are new and I think an improvement in older ways of doing things like that. So when you put these things together, we're addressing that first flush, we're addressing mimicry of the natural conditions. That's critically important with your water management, and that's being addressed here. For those reasons, I second and also approve this application.
Thank you, Jim. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
call for a vote. Jim?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioners.
all right. Going on to old business, application 19-3.7, 988 Center Street. Bond release?
No, that's going to wait till the spring, till they know what the plantings are.
Okay. Application A25 1.1, 8 North Turnpike Road, YMCA. They have requested a extension, correct, table? They're going to table their,
They requested to be tabled
Tabled,
till
so
next
be it.
month.
so be it. Application A25 1.3, 15 Sterling Drive, Tim Mulcahy.
Sorry, make sure you say particulars. This is.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, I'm Brian Panico with Cole Civil and Survey, project manager and engineer.
Excuse me, can you spell Panico?
Panico. And we are at 876 South Main Street in Plantsville. So the proposal in front of you is a 22.38 acre parcel, zone IX. There's an existing 174,000 square foot building on it. This is currently the Connecticut Lottery headquarters building. There's 164 parking spaces, and there is approximately 6,400 square feet of wetlands in the rear of the building. The existing building, where it abuts Tower Drive. We are proposing a 62,500 square foot building directly opposite corner of the site as that wetland. So along Sterling Drive. Part of it is existing parking lot. which is at the rear of the new building. That will be repurposed to provide loading docks and additional parking for the new building. And the nearest corner of any disturbance, so if on our kind of colored rendering there, where the color starts, which is where the parking lot is being repurposed to the wetland, is 547 feet away. So that is the closest wetland. So we're here before you tonight because we have an increase in impervious surface. It's over 10,000 square feet. The exact number of increased impervious surface, I'll come back. It is 21,000 square feet of parking lot that is increased in this case. I believe the total increase in impervious surface was 83,643. So in this design, as part of the revisions, we did get comments back. I believe the environmental planner's report, Erin's report, she had written on Friday. We actually dropped off all of the revised plans on Friday, so the report I don't think reflects that update. But the major changes that we had made to the plans were to address some of the stormwater concerns and the infiltration. So what we did was we modified the stormwater plans to infiltrate the entire roof of the building. So all 62,500 square feet of roof are now being infiltrated underground. We split that up so that half of the building goes to that southern, or to the parking lot to the east, and the other half to the parking lot to the west. So front yard, rear yard of the building. And then we also have a large infiltration basin along the entrance to this building, which will infiltrate and treat all of the parking lot runoff. Water quality for the site, using the 2024 water quality manual, we are at about 213% water quality provided based on the amount of impervious surface of this new development. As that, obviously the underground infiltrators, those have actually been sized to handle the entire 100-year storm event. There is high-level overflows in them that go to stormwater collection system. In the event the basins and all of that, as that fills up, it goes to a riprap spillway and then back to the existing storm drainage system within Sterling Drive, which is currently what happens with all that parking lot runoff. The only difference is now we're kind of breaking these away and adding quite a bit of water quality volume to that. See if I missed anything here. The basin's designed to drain with a drain down time of 37 hours, so less than 48-hour drain down for the 100-year storm. It would be dry, so concerns of back-to-back storms and that filling up and not being able to do what it's supposed to are mitigated. If there's any additional questions or anything else I can provide for you, I'd be happy.
Not really. I don't have any questions now. Things usually we get a little more description of what's going on your map and where the flows are and what you've got for retention areas and how where the discharges go.
Would you like me to point those out? I can do that for you.
Pardon me?
Would you like me to point that out for you?
Yes, please. There's a microphone there.
So currently, I'll start with kind of the existing condition of the site to get a better idea. So this area of the parking lot is already a parking lot. There's catch basins within it. Those all discharge to a small detention area in the same area as the one that we're proposing now. That handles a lot of the parking lot in this area, as well as this existing parking lot, which then flows out to Sterling Drive, to the existing drainage system. What we've proposed is in this area right here, the underground infiltration. So that collects all of the roof leaders, as well as, collects all of the roof leaders, and then the overflow of that goes back to the collection system for this parking area. Collection system for this parking area discharges to detention basin. The collection system of this parking area also discharges to this detention area. And we have an underground infiltration system proposed here. Collect the roof leaders, overflow back. Outlet control structure located in the west end of the basin will discharge water to a riprap level spreader, swale type of a setup. And the water will flow down that swale into a head wall. It's currently a catch basin. We're proposing to remove that, make it a PG head wall style.
Your roof drainage, is that going into a collection system that the parking lot drains into also?
No,
They're separate?
no, they're separate. So the underground infiltration systems are just for the roof. They have high level overflows that go to the collection system in the event they've done.
And is there oil water separators for the driveways?
We are proposing oil water separator unit to be put in at some location before it goes to that basin. And that will be we have it spec'd as a contact unit right now. So not just the standard oil water separator, but also more of the vortex style.
Maintenance contract on it and all that?
Yeah.
Do you have the testing results for your underground storage?
The infiltration testing?
Yes.
We have not done that yet. We have proposed it as a note on the plan to be done prior to construction of anything and verified by the town.
So we'll see those before we give you approval?
Correct.
All
Yep.
right.
Yeah, and we do a double ring infiltration test for permeability is what we.
Are you familiar with what depth they take those at?
So typically, we would take those you'd have to excavate down to the point of where the bottom of your basin, where you're actually going to infiltrate that water. And that's where you would actually take that test. So it's not quite as, easy as it used to be doing like a percolation test or something, but the results are much more accurate as far as infiltration. So you really need some heavy equipment out there. When you get down 6 foot deep basin, you want to be testing the soil at the location it's actually in.
What would be plan 2 if you find that you have rock and ledge out there?
So if there were rock and ledge out there, we would likely have to increase the sizes of either the underground systems or make the basin smaller or more shallow, rather, and then just make it larger. So basically, in this situation, obviously, the client would have to, be the one to say yay or nay to this, but I would recommend making the basin more shallow so that you can keep that depth. Obviously, deep test pits as well. You have to be 48 inches above ledge for those. So as you do that, we'll figure all of that out. We need to make the basin more shallow and maybe increase the size of the underground storage systems to accommodate more of that. And that's what we would have to do. But that would obviously require us to come back to.
But you won't know that until you start digging.
Correct.
When will we see the results of your testing? The next month's application, or is it going to be a couple months down the road?
No, it would be a couple months down the road.
Debbie?
No questions.
Jimmy?
Downhill from here, police station, a little bit to the south and downhill. Do I have this location right?
I'm sorry, Jim?
The new police station, is that downhill and a little south of there?
Downhill, and I would call more like west.
Well, that's the downhill, I'm sorry.
Right.
West and
It's
south.
probably a little south, it's because it sits on 68 rather
Yeah.
than set to the back of the property line.
When they were digging out for their detention pond, didn't they hit a spring?
I think when not the retention pond as much as the wall for the shooting range and back there, they broke that plane. But you're right, they couldn't drain the retention pond because the water was coming in so quickly.
Yeah, that has me a little bit concerned with infiltration uphill. Although it's more point source than open field collection areas. But I think a little bit of a hydrologic analysis of where your water from infiltration may end up. Because right downhill from there, they've been having issues. Normally when you infiltrate, it's a good thing. But you have to also look at the topography and the underlying stratification here. And that has a tendency in this area to create seeps, which is kind of what they broke into when they were doing that excavation. held underground until it was broken open. And the other thing is, we are a little bit elevated here in the drainage basin for this entire area, which is perhaps a good place to do a little bit of more extensive retention before it's released to ease the conditions just downhill from it. I would just appreciate someone looking into those concerns. Would this be a good location for a little bit higher time period of retention to ease conditions below this area in elevation? And I think a lot of that will come out as we move forward, especially when you do your analysis that you're describing of the subsoils and whatnot.
Do you know where the storm drainage system drops off of Sterling Drive? It goes down Barnes Road, or does it break off into an unnamed brook? Or
I believe this actually goes north, and then there's a wetland, like a stream up, or sorry, not north. This is
Intermittent ravine.
Huh?
An intermittent ravine is what it really goes into, flushes downhill and then disappears.
But the elevations I saw, it doesn't cross over and get up into Fairfield Boulevard.
Good point, I don't know.
Well, don't you got the elevations on the map there? The ridge is something like 317 or something. But the elevation of the retention pond is going to be down under 310. I just didn't think Sterling Drive went to the east up to Fairfield Boulevard.
I'm not sure, honestly.
All right. Well, you've got a lot of questions to answer with Aaron, so we'll table this till next month. But please let me warn you, we dislike being handed out reports the night of the meeting.
okay.
So if they're not in by the Friday before we can review them for the weekend, it gets a little testing.
Okay.
Okay?
And at this point, Aaron, we don't have any additional comments, correct? You're still just reviewing the last set of revisions?
I'll review what you handed in Friday.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I haven't done it yet.
Yes. Okay.
I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, where am I here? All right. Okay, we've got new applications from Town Hall on drainage, and I think the only thing else to handle tonight is the order for 14 Brookview Avenue.
Actually, I have something. J1, I thought we were going to lift the notice of violation on Winding Brook Lane.
What are we going to do?
To lift, he's under a notice of violation. So do we want to lift it tonight?
All right, so, okay, so the violation is what the order is regarding 14 Brookview.
Oh, no, I understand, but in the sequence on the agenda, the Winding Brook Lane comes before the Brookview Avenue. I'm
Okay.
just going in order. Sorry,
All right,
that's
so
all.
violation number 1,
Yeah,
you want to discuss that?
yeah, at the last meeting, he said, is
Here
there...
tonight?
No, I said he didn't have to come, because at the last meeting, he asked for it to be lifted.
Well, are these gentlemen Winding Brook?
No, they're the next. They're for, correct? There's no one here for Winding Brook, correct? Yeah, they're here for Brookview Avenue. That's the next application that we're going to, or the next situation we're going to talk about.
All right, so what's the story with Winding Brook?
Okay, that's where we went out on the sidewalk December 7th.
Yes?
And he told me today, he has not removed those 3 trees because it was too muddy. But should we leave his violation on? Or he asked last month, he was saying, please remove my violation because everything's okay now. I mean, the commission kind of accepted what had been done there and we can move on. At least that was my interpretation.
And you think that should be done?
I see no
What's
reason.
up to you? You created the violation, you think this violation is satisfied?
The only thing, well, let me explain what hasn't. The only thing that hasn't been done is putting grass. He wants to put in grass seed. That hasn't been done, obviously, because it's winter. Other than that, I don't have an issue with his violation being lifted. I mean, he's going to put in the grass seed. He is. He doesn't want to look at dirt all year, so he's going to put in his grass seed.
So he's supposed to be closing in around the pool, right?
No, I'm speaking just about the wetlands, which is the back third of his property. The area you just mentioned is the upland review area where he's got the 4 feet of fill.
Okay, so what does he want to do in the back?
Okay, so by the pool that you
Yes.
mentioned, he said he's coming in, he thought he'd get in time, but he didn't. So he'll be in within a week or two with what he wants to do around the pool area, in the upland review area, for a permit.
Okay. So, did he have an application for that? No.
Not yet. I thought it'd be in now. He says he's got to fiddle with it, so it'll be in a few weeks.
Well, then, why do you want to take it off the you want to take it off the violation list?
I
mean,
misread the commission.
You've
I
got
must
so
have
many
been-
other ones sitting there waiting for the grass to grow. But
All right.
this, you want to take this off the violation list.
I misread the commission. I thought the commission was going in that direction last month.
I still believe that that's a prime example of, let me do it and I'll ask permission later or ask forgiveness than permission. I don't know. To me, it isn't clear on what this is all requesting. We told him to cut the trees. He missed that window. Okay, that's what he wanted to do. We told him he can do the wall around the pool.
With an application.
What's that?
Yes, he has to submit an application for the wall around the pool.
Well,
Already there.
It can wait. It can wait a month. It can wait another
it can
month.
wait.
Yeah.
It can wait.
Okay.
Okay. Then order number 2 is 14 Brookview. You folks from Brookview, come on down. Why would she interrupt what I was doing to go to that?
Couldn't you?
No. I think we already have these.
Got enough for everybody?
So, microphone, the one behind you, there's a handheld behind you.
My name is Doug Anderson, for the record, and I'm with Mason Boyhan from Boyhan Property Services. We're helping Mr. and Mrs. Santa Maria with an issue they had.
Pardon me, if you could just slow down a bit?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Could you slow down a bit?
I'm sorry.
Speak slower.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'll start over. My name is Doug Anderson, and this is Mason Boyhan from Boyhan Property Services. And we are here with John Santa Maria and helping him and his wife out with a situation that occurred with a retaining wall behind their home back in the middle of August. It was a high water event that occurred, I believe on a Sunday, that caused the stream behind their home that bisects Brookview Road and Jody Drive to rise above some existing masonry retaining wall that got rebuilt. When was that, John? A couple months earlier?
We had just completed it. I don't know if I'm coming through on the speaker. We had just completed that work probably 3 months before the August 18th flood event.
So it's essentially what they have going on here. This was a home subdivision built in the 60s, I presume late 60s. Unconventional construction as of today's standards. So the watercourse that bisects Brookview and Jody Drive is made up a series of mafia blocks stacked upon one another to create a kind of a causeway through the neighborhood there. So apparently, the neighborhood doesn't have much drainage, so in big weather events, it appears that, there's massive surge of water that will come up and rise, above what happened here. What we believe happened here is that water rose above the top of the third course of the mafia block and began to scour out. And I put some pictures in that packet that I just got from John tonight that was about an hour and a half after the storm when the water had subsided. So essentially what happened is the stream flows from up, comes down, it angles towards this wall here, and you can kind of see that in the pictures. So as the water level rose, it breached the top of the mafia block, began to scour and wash over the top of the wall, thereby undermining the wall above and also undermining the wall and caused the collapse. So we've looked at this a couple ways, worked with Aaron, trying to figure out a solution for him that's manageable financially, and looked at, as an initial scope of work, to remove all the mafia block off-site and remove the upper tier wall, armor the entire slope with large 1 to 2 ton stone to create a little bit more of like a revetment application. But there's some pretty challenging logistics involved with this site, being that it's not accessible from Brookview Drive. And fortunately enough, Mr. Santa Maria has a relative that owns the house right behind his, who's given him permission to stage the site from Jody Drive and come in from Jody Drive. So it will give us the ability to actually work the site from the Jody Drive side and bring in a big enough piece of equipment to work that side and be able to reach over the watercourse and dismantle the blocks, stack them and stage them, reshape the embankment, and then rebuild. The goal is to rebuild what was there in a slightly different configuration. So the initial thought was was to remove armor. That became very cost prohibitive because of the logistics of moving every piece out one at a time and bringing that much armor stone back in. So Aaron had asked us to maybe look at hiring an engineering firm to come and design a new wall, structure there for him. However, again, from a cost perspective, for an engineer, we had 3 firms that we talked to. For them to come out and put what I would call conventional day plan together would require surveying of the property, extensive engineering costs that almost, would gobble up probably half the cost if it was, an armored scenario. So, and then to design something that's going to most likely probably run into the $100,000 plus, kind of scenario. So it's kind of a unique situation because there is some public aspect of this drainage system that services the neighborhood, and whether the town of Wallingford is, kind of a participant in that has been determined that they don't really want to have anything to do with doing the repair or doing any work there. So, we were trying to find him a cost-effective solution that we thought would give it the highest probability of kind of working within the confines that we have, right? So we have a pre-existing condition where the existing mafia block that lines the stream, in most cases, is in excess of 4 feet tall, right? So current standards require that any wall built in Wallingford over 4 feet in height require engineering and things of that nature. So our position and goal and hope that the commission would agree is that we have a pre-existing kind of non-conforming situation here, and we have kind of an inherited materials, if you will. So to take that apart and and rebuild it back in a stronger, more fortified way, which I've kind of outlined in our narrative, which would also include bringing some armor stone in. And we've gotten it to a point where we think from a cost perspective, we can make it work within, with what the Santa Marias can afford to do, and give them something that's going to, give it the best chance of withstanding another major rain event. So initially our thought was to make that wall as high as possible. So bring all those courses out, angle back, and then what our plan would be to bury that first course, and then every course upon that, drill and dowel and reconnect the blocks with rebar, which wasn't the case in this scenario, to sort of make a kind of cohesive one component wall that's going to have a higher probability of withstanding, impact of water and things. And then also toe the slope with armor stone to enable that water to shed away from that wall. So when it does come down that stream, it has the ability to kind of deflect off that wall and continue downstream, where prior, in this current condition, it came at the wall, rose above it, scoured it, eroded it, and then collapsed. So on this rendition, what we've done is we've taken one course off the top because we were obviously in excess of 4 feet in height, and that's something the building department wasn't comfortable with putting back without, again, getting into the whole engineering aspect of it and spending, 30 or 40 grand just to get some paper drawings done to figure out what could be built there in, today's current standards. So in this scenario, we're proposing to eliminate the Versalock or segmented block wall that's on the third tier, and again, utilizing the block that's on site, use one course of block at that tier, and then bring our 4 courses of block, which in theory at 2 feet of block is 8 feet of wall. However, 2 feet will be buried, and then we're proposing to armor 2 feet up, so we will only have 4 feet of exposed wall. And the theory would be the same to dowel it, pin it. In addition to all that, we plan on adding, putting crushed stone behind it with pipe and connecting pipe to a small little rain garden up here to help pick up any water flow that comes off the top of the hill. However, in looking at the pictures and looking at all the kind of the erosion that occurred, we don't think a lot of that was a factor in this collapse, but while we're there doing it, the Santa Marias, agree that it's an extra precautionary measure to kind of pick up any uphill flow, give them a little kind of rain garden with an off pipe that will connect back down, and then give some free draining, capability behind that wall. And then as an additional step, this plan proposes to use smaller armor stone, which we call like a Class C stone, somewhere between 14 and 18 inches, and fill from the top of this wall, maybe a foot down into those blocks, and again, slope up to the toe of our second tier block wall, another layer of stone. So in the event that the water does, again, let's say breach to a point higher than that wall, it will have the ability to run over that rock that will be kind of chinked together and compacted in place and towed up. So to allow that water to, again, run and deflect off that and, again, work its way downstream as quickly as possible with as limited disruption, if you will, with, kind of square and angular surfaces. So
We've heard 3 different scenarios now you have plans to do. We're only interested in the end result that's going to be the right result. I want to back up and ask the question, was there a permit to do this prior to this erosion factor you had?
Initially, when I applied through Wetlands to do the first construction or the wall before it was destroyed, that was all done through Wetlands, approved at that point in time. I believe it was in 2019, and there was no permits required at that point because Nothing was in excess. It was of the 4 feet. So we were all just working off of what was primarily already there when I purchased the house. I purchased the house in 1987. It was built in 1966, and I came in and it was what was already there. So we had been working with that from day one. At this point, we would be probably the most work we're going to be able to do going forward. This will be the extent of it.
But you're telling me that originally this footprint that you gave us tonight was there and you just renovated it?
Yes.
I don't ever recall us giving permission to put that in the way it is. This is a pretty elaborate system you have here.
No, that in the wall was always 2 block high from the time that it was built.
Now I see there's 4 or 6 block high. You've got 4.
Well, actually, when I came in, the wall, some of those blocks had fallen into the brook over the years prior to me doing any work into that. So the original blocks were higher. So I think there was a total, you're right, of about 6 foot a block, or if you considered all the blocks being positioned the way they were supposed to be, it was about 6 feet a block.
Yeah, if you look down the,
Hang on a minute.
the
Go
wall, you
ahead.
can see.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Nick.
I'm just concerned that you've spent a lot of money and you've done a lot of tweaking here to give you what you need. And this original picture here shows a pretty nice setup. But I don't ever recall this coming in front of us to have this design in place. And I don't remember having given a permit this. I've been here around 20-something years. So, but it sounds like you've got 2 young, ambitious gentlemen that want to help you repair it. But I think the first thing you should do is get a design engineer to design what's going to be in place and it's going to work. Because I don't want you to be back here next year with the same problem. So they're trying to save you money, but in the long run, they're not, because we're not engineers and we don't do this design work. In drilling and rebarb, and I've seen drilling and rebarb and go right down the brook. Instead of having 1 block go, you'll have 2 or 3 blocks go because they're all joined together. So I don't feel comfortable. I'm not saying no to what you want to do here, but I think you need to back up a little bit, and to go forward, you need to back up.
Well, I understand your concern, and I appreciate that, but the other
Talk
problem...
into the microphone.
Huh?
You got to talk into the microphone.
I'm sorry. I appreciate the concern, but the other thing is, I'm not getting any assistance here. I applied for funds for FEMA. I've been denied by FEMA, and to actually do what you're suggesting would cost me thousands of dollars more that I just can't afford to fix. What I can do is keep the initial footprint and make it better than it was when it was built, and fortify it with me spending more money to do that. I can afford to do that. To go the other route, I just can't afford to do that and spend that kind of money.
Well, I live on the Quinnipiac River, so I can feel for you, because I know I've probably lost a ½ acre of land over the last 10 years, because when the water comes up, it washes my property away. So I can feel for you, but I think it's important that whatever you do, it's something that's going to work. I want Aaron to go back in the records and see the original application when we allowed you to do this.
It was in 2019.
89?
2019.
2019 you were here?
The plan was, I have it here, it was done by Roman Brzezinski with Southwest Conservation District, but it was more of a restoration at that time. It wasn't from scratch, it was a restoration.
Correct.
Right, and that was 2019, and you built it, there was a delay with your contractor, and you built it in 2021, I believe?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was, Pete Kennedy was the contractor. He is no longer doing that kind of work due to health reasons. And since then, the only event that ever occurred was the rare event that we had on August 18th. And that just toppled the blocks that were there. They were not pinned in place or anything like that because we used the original footprint. We just restored it to the way it was when it was built, and it was fine for, like I said, it was been built since 1966, and it was fine. There was no event. The only event that occurred was what happened on August 18th, which was a rarity. So what I'm trying to do is, again, stay within the original footprint and just make it a lot better than what it's been over the years. The original footprint lasted 50 years plus, and we don't expect any problems, but it was a unique situation. And, again, I just like to let the commission know that I'm up against the wall here. I just retired recently, and I don't have those kinds of funds to do a full-scale engineering when I'm just working with the original footprint that has never been a problem for the last 50 years.
Go ahead, Nick.
No, I just want to regroup what I say to him so he understands. No,
Okay. Debbie?
No comment.
Jimmy?
In looking at these pictures of the way it is currently, it almost appears as though the water blew out the stones. The big blocks have been displaced into the channel, which implies the force was being applied from behind them. Yes, it was probably undermined, but at the same time, as I look at these pictures, I ask the question to you, how many drainage ports were engineered into the foundation of the original project here?
There was none. Oh,
See,
are you asking me, just to clarify, I want to make sure I understand the question correctly. When the house was built or on the restoration work?
When you moved in there, at the foundation, the structure that was there, were there pipes at the base of it that
No.
relieve the? That's part of the issue, and I don't hear any address. What you want to do is put it back together in the same footprint. Good idea. Acceptable, totally. Reinforce it by staking it. But I got to tell you, the force of water that builds up, unless you have properly engineered drainage coming in from behind it, what's coming from your backyard into that area collects under extensive rains, can build up, and even if those are all staked together, it could lift it and push it right into the stream. One of the things I would ask of the commission with regard to this, obviously, I think it needs an application. Would the commission consider this not a significant activity, or would it be significant? And the reason I ask that question, if it were to be deemed a significant activity, it requires certified engineering. Do you fit that, you the certified engineer?
Let me, if I could just finish a couple things. So one of the other, I've been I appreciate the young comment, by the way, but I've been in the construction industry for 35 years, and I've built roads. I run 2 quarries. I've been in the, a building business my whole life, right? So I've had experience with, real world dynamics, boots on the ground construction, hands on the ground. Mason, as well as younger, obviously, that's me, but is in the business, why he called me to look at. So I think you have to keep in mind, for the Santa Maria's sake, this is a pre-existing, like, non-conforming, typical construction dynamic that has failed, right? So it's failed, and it's in the current water. So sort of caught between a rock and a hard place, if you will, because what do? Leave it there and stay there? If you remove the block,
You're not.
Yeah, better. Okay,
You're
sorry.
Get into that mic.
Yeah, sorry about that. So if we remove the block and clean it up and don't do anything, then you have an exposed slope there, right? So inherently, when that was built in the 60s, they realized that you know,
We're going down the path.
yeah, but I guess my point is, we are trying to make so we planned on putting crushed stone behind the wall, inch and a
I'm
quarter.
not sure, I don't even like that idea, because that's where the water's gonna go right in behind the crushed stone and go.
With
It ought to
piping.
should have some kind of cap, but let's just hold on a minute. We're going down the path. I mean, Jimmy, on this map, or this picture, shows plenty of weep through the block. But at the same token, I think that is where the water hit and got right in underneath the block there. But this project has brought the attention of all the different departments in the town. And it gets to be a problem with, what are you going to demand them to do? And do you become liable if you give them a demand to put the wall back this way and it fails? Are you liable? Who's liable for the future coming? So what the town legal department has recommended and actually told us how to handle this, because it gets very complicated, because who's liable down the road? And they're using something that we've never used before, but it's an order written, coming out of the legal department. It's an order. It's not a violation. It's not a cease and correct. It's an order. You are hereby ordered to do something, and to do something means repair the wall. That's what our legal department wants us to do. I don't even know if we vote on this. Do we vote on this order, Aaron?
You are directed to accept the plan that they are proposing, and it's their burden to prove to you that this is the best plan to go forward with. Please approve it. So, or please accept it.
What's that?
To accept it. Just like with Kondraki Lane, it was an order to, and you accepted the plan that engineer brought in front of you.
So what if we don't accept this plan tonight?
You don't have to accept it. It's their job to make a presentation that would compel you to accept it, okay? That the burden's on them. But I do
So
want
if
to...
this plan is not accepted tonight, if we don't accept this gentleman's plan, what do? They go back to the drawing board and they end up hiring an engineer?
Back up. I don't know
Back
if
up.
everybody, if I could say, do you remember what happened August 18? There was this freak storm. What did they say for Southbury and Oxford? They got FEMA, it was emergency funding, federal funding for Oxbury and Oxford and Southbury. What kind of freak storm was it? 500-year storm for, it's very localized.
Go for it, Glenn. We know what Oxford got. We know the
Right,
storm.
so this stream happened to get hit the very same, not much of Wallingford, but this stream got it. So that's going back to, will it happen again? Yeah, it might happen again, but it never happened before, which Mr. Santamaria was
The point?
was saying. So every day, every storm since August, it's bleeding into the stream. We have to do something to stop the bleeding, okay? So there's two parts. You stop the bleeding and you make a nice wall. What they want to do is get 2 for 1. Stop the bleeding and make a nice wall at the same time. They have spent hours on this, hours and hours, going back with the building department, with me, to get this to a point where it is feasible because of money. They tried to get money from the federal government. NRCS was in on it, and it was a no-go.
So you're telling us this should be approved, this plan?
I'm telling you, if it's not approved, that they're not going to, unless Mr. Santamaria wins the lottery, this is the best plan
So
you
if
might
it doesn't
see.
get approved, it's going to stay just the way it is.
I'm not saying maybe you don't want to add something constructive, like Nick was, another pipe, more gravel, something like that, a constructive criticism.
If I put my 2 cents into this program, then I feel I'm liable when it fails next time.
And I agree with Jim. We're not the engineers here.
Well-
And finances cannot be a burden on us. We understand financial burden, but if the job's going to be done, have it done right. And I don't believe this gentleman says he's built roads and does all sorts of stuff. He's never tackled something like this, so I don't believe he's knowledgeable
That's
enough
not
to put
accurate.
this in.
Don't push it.
So what we're saying is they got to go away tonight and come back with a different design, something that's more acceptable to us with over 100 and some years of experience here with this type of work, something that's going to work, and he's not going to get shafted money-wise for rebuilding something that's not going to last another 50 years. Because if it lasts another 20 years, we'll probably all be dead and gone, and he won't care anyhow. So that's what we're looking for, is to have it done right. Is that too hard for you to understand, Aaron?
If I may interject one other thing that somebody brought up the point of drainage or something. We are going to be putting pipe behind the wall for drainage to assist, which wasn't done before. So, you know, what we were just trying to address here is the possibility of another 1 in 100-year event of water coming over the top. We would mitigate that and then also put drainage in there that was never done before. So that's going to be part of the project behind the wall. So we feel comfortable after Aaron's point, hours of discussion of making this much better than it was, including drainage behind the wall, where the water, to your point earlier, the water had nowhere to go. It does, when we get done with this, the intent is the water will have somewhere to go. It won't feel the impact should there be a little bit of a breach of water going over the existing wall.
Well, when I look at this picture that you submitted, this picture here, there's plenty of outlets in the wall that's letting the water out behind it.
I think you'll realize that it's on a curve and the back sides of the block are touching. The front is opened up. And the more the pressure builds behind it, the more it pushes it closed on the back, the more it opens it in the front until it blows out. So yeah, it gives the appearance that it has weepage. It wasn't designed to have weepage. Those blocks were closed on the back side and opened on the front side. They have to be opened on the backside. If you do that, you can relieve the pressure and it won't come out again. So it needs to have openings. You got square blocks, and when they come together, they open at the front end, but they're closed at the back. And unless you overcome that, you will build up pressure behind there. And the pressure is not entirely even. It depends upon the consistency of the material that you have behind that wall. Certain areas will accumulate, build more pressures. Others will resist and have less pressure. You gotta relieve, at least at the base, near the base, and then also above it on the second tier. Relief at each of those terraces. It has to have foot drains underneath. And don't allow the back of the blocks to lock in the water, which is what's happening. If you look at the verticals going down, you can see the blocks are touching in the back, opened in the front towards the stream. I think it could be done, but it requires looking into that. You just can't put those blocks back and stake them together because water could move the entire wall at once. It's got to have that pressure relief. I've seen 60-foot boats made of concrete. They float fine.
I understood, and I think we addressed that.
Microphone.
I'm sorry, if you look at the plan, our proposal is to put piping behind there and get that piping to daylight, so that pressure, you know, would relieve. And I think one of the points I also forgot to mention was that we plan on using a geofabric in between each layer of stone, tied back as far back into the bank as would typically be done with a Versalock or segmented block wall. So all we're trying to do is give him the best insurance policy he can by doing what we can. I mean, if you want him to put the wall back to the way it was, we'd be happy to do it. I don't think it's the right answer because he could probably be back here on the next big rain event. So we're trying to give him at least a little bit more of a jump to handle an unusual weather event, to not be back in this situation again. We discussed that, and he had said, well, can we just put it back? I said, we could. I don't feel comfortable with that because just from my experience in construction over the years and using some level of common sense with respect to construction dynamics, we are trying to take every precautionary measure we can given the cards we're dealt with with the project. Right? Unfortunately, there's not an unlimited pocketbook. Unfortunately, there's not funds available for, to hire an engineer and spend 20, 30, 40 grand in surveying and engineering this as we would be typically accustomed to in our current day projects. So from the commission's perspective, is it okay for him to put the wall back the way it was and be done with it? We can do that. We don't think it's the answer. Or would it be prudent to say, hey, what additional measures can we take, utilizing more or less the same footprint, adding some supportive techniques with doweling and grouting the walls together, adding wash stone, crushed stone behind the walls, drainage, geofabric, getting that wall level up, adding armor stone to the toe of the wall, adding armor stone to the top of the wall. These are all precautionary measures that we're trying to give the Santa Marias, and it doesn't come without a cost. There's a substantial cost with this. So all we're here is trying to find a solution so they can try and put this wall back together.
And if I may again, address the commission, what I'm trying to do, and I'm willing to spend money on, is make it better than what it was when I inherited it. Not knowing at the time that I purchased the house that it was going to be a problem, obviously, but you know, I'm in there, I'm willing to spend a little bit more money to make it better than what it is, but I have a limit, of what I can afford to satisfy everybody's concern. And, you know, and I respect the
All right. All right, I believe, our job here is wetland protection, and whether the wall is put up to be a Taj Mahal wall, or it's whether to put up to be a throw-together wall, our restriction is going to be protecting the brook at this case, because there's no wetlands on where this wall is. This picture shows the brook is really a narrow stream when it's dry. When was this picture taken? And this is before the...
Can I approach and just...
Well, this has had to be before the rainstorm, because the wall's complete, it hasn't fallen in.
Right. This was...
That's right, you've got a microphone. So this picture shows the wall, shows some opening, but it shows the brook being dry, being narrow on this. The storm we had was a disaster, there's no question about it. So the point being is, our job is to protect that gravel base. And I hate to say it, I don't disagree with Nick, I don't disagree with Jimmy. But if he wants to put the wall back with the plan they submitted and it falls in next storm, he'll be back to see us again. And then that's how I feel, and I think the town, between engineering department and the law department, I think that's okay with them too. Nick?
How much land do you own on the other side where your footbridge was?
If I took it in total from property line to where the footbridge was, I'd probably say about 25 feet, 30 feet maybe.
It's a small strip.
It's a small strip, yes.
Does that abut to a relative?
Yes, my niece, it was my sister's house. My niece inherited. My sister passed recently.
Gotta speak up a little bit more.
My sister owned the house originally. It's a 39 Jody Drive, and it backs up to my property. So on the original picture that you look at, when that work was done, they accessed through Jody Drive through her property, and everything was done in that strip, and used that area as a staging area, along with some of the area on my niece's property or my sister's property. So that would be the same plan.
So you've been there long enough to know that this particular brook has ups and downs to it, as far as it's always been an eyesore to a lot of people, because one day it's a trickle brook, the next day it's a running brook, and the third day it's a flooding brook.
I've been there since 1987.
Okay, so the houses were built in the 60s, so you missed the first 20 years of development when it was roaring pretty well, because all that stormwater was barreling down through there. So after, you think 20 or 30 years, it would have mellowed out, but we all know that this storm that came last year was a freaky, and it just gave you a punch to what you could expect maybe again this year. I'm not sure, but I'm a believer in doing things right and not over hindsight. Not that I want to see you spend money on engineering, but
Well, we beat this thing around. I think I'll call the commission to, and just, does an order require a motion to approve an order or a motion to make an order?
Yeah, well, I think you're asking two things. One is, do you want to affirm my order that I sent out last week? That was, okay.
Where's your order? This
Oh,
is,
you should have gotten a copy in the packet. Did the people
yeah,
get it?
you're directed by this office at time to immediately install erosion control measures. This is the order that you're suggesting then?
It should say order in big capital
It
letters.
says
on the
order.
front.
I
Yeah,
got it
okay.
here.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
this is what you're suggesting.
Yes. So you can, yes, affirm the order tonight, but then the second thing, if you felt like it, would be to accept the plan that he is proposing, or not. He could come back next month, whatever you want to do
One
with
thing at a
that.
time, Aaron.
I like that concept because what I think is needed here, just as a suggestion, is you need to come in and identify what you have recognized collectively here as the cause of the failure. I think it's kind of obvious what caused the failures and how you intend to address those failures in replacing it to its original footprint with the following improvements that you have addressed. And that should come back to us as a submittal to fulfill the requirements of them. And again, not make this anything elaborate, but at least get you to the position where you need to be in correcting this without it costing a fortune. I think it can be done, but to put it back the way it was, no way would I ever approve that. I don't care what they say in the law office. I would never approve that because it guarantee that the comment was made tonight, the 100-year storm, geez, fairy tales are more useful than that concept. I've seen 100-year storms hit a place 3 times in 1 year. It's a concept, and it's failing more and more and more for good reasons, which we're not going to get into here. But in terms of this, I would like to see an identification of what we've discussed here tonight as the causes for the failure, your changes in putting back the system as it was in the footprint, with the following changes that will solve this problem and hopefully resolve them so that the next time the 100-year storm comes, it'll hold up. And I think the key to it is the drainage that prevents it from blowing into that stream. It collects water from too many places here, and that can be resolved. My opinion, that's all.
So your opinion is that the plan that they're submitting to do is not satisfactory?
I want them to submit a plan that shows improvements, identifies the flaws, and gives us something that we can hold on to as a means of improving and getting it back into a, perhaps not the best, perhaps not a truly engineered thing, but it would also require the commission not to define it as a significant activity if it were an application. And I don't know if we can just get around that, and
I think that's what, by having an order rather than a...
yeah, I mean, if that's an order, I'd like to have the law office give us a clarification on how we can circumvent our regulations to fulfill their law requirements. Because if our regulations cause us to look at this, this has the potential of doing very serious damage if we ever did that, because we felt that way. It would require us to put this as a significant activity. And then the law office would come in and say, you can't use your laws, we have to use our laws. Well, what guides us, really? Is it our state authority or is it the local? To me, that seems a conflict of legal interests. But I want to see this done, and I think it can be done. But I think you have to come in with a plan that the commission at least can accept in principle. I think your ideas were good.
I mean, if you look, we did denote that in the plans. We've shown pipe, we did a cross-section through that. If you look at the last page, Aaron asked us to put develop a cross-section, which we did. I had a draft person do that. Show the crushed stone, show the drainage, the geofabric, all the tie-in, everything. So we have done that on this plan. So I agree with your analysis.
And so
that-
tell us why you did that.
Again,
I know.
I've done that because there's, again, certain common sense aspects of construction that you want to do to fortify and increase the ability for it to stand the test of time. So going back and putting back what was there, 3 blocks high, stacked up, no stone, backed up, done. I mean, I guess he's really looking for a solution, right? Because we have a collapsed wall sitting in a stream, and we can't move. We don't know can we build it? Can we put it back? So we need direction, right? This has been going on since literally the summer because we're caught in this quagmire of.
And if I may just make another comment, since this happened on August 18th, I've been speaking to Aaron right along, and told you got to get the block out of the stream, you got to do this, you got to move. Okay, well, I don't want to. It's going to cost me pay the contractor to come in, move the block, and then I got to pay him again because they're going to tear up the lawn for the property on 39 Jody Drive. Then I got to repair it. Then I have to call the contractor again, tear up the lawn again, and each time, that in itself is 10 grand a pop just to get the equipment in and out of there, just to move block around. So I'm trying to do this all at once. At the same time, I put an application in for FEMA. The wetlands is, and this is, I'm not being critical here, but the wetlands is saying, okay, you need to get this done ASAP. We got to move the block out. FEMA's telling me, don't do anything yet until we do our inspections and stuff like that. So I got one organization telling me to move, one organization telling me to not to move, and I'm trying to balance this and get the contractor in there all in one shot without spending the money twice to call the contractor back and forth. So I've been trying to work with FEMA. I've been trying to work with the commission, and all I'm getting on this, to be honest with you, is back and forth running around, and we've been working this since August 19th.
Okay. All right, there is a scope of work, which I think he would call his plan. Is that you would call your plan? So if you came back next month, you would hand this back to us and maybe have a drain pipe behind the wall. It should be in there. It's on the print. So that's basically what you're going to do. But if the commission is not going to want to go forward tonight, we're going to see you next month. Is that?
We just need, give us some
microphone.
Direction. Give us some direction, because we need direction.
You
right?
sat here too. I heard the same thing.
We're going to be back with the same thing, and we're going to be going on the circle around and around. I mean, do you want to put back what was there and just be done with it, and not try and do a little better job here, or do you want to try and not be back here again in 2 years or a year when the next 100-year storm comes?
I mean, Nick Kern has a very valid point. He wants to see it done right, so you don't have any additional expense 10 years down the road, but that's more expensive. Jimmy wants a better plan, I guess maybe drawn rather than scope of work. Debbie hasn't said much, sometimes better off. And the scope of work, I mean, I could have my own opinions on what's going on. I would bury the first one, and I wouldn't have those openings where they came around. I think that's where the water injected in there. Get down below the flow. Maybe I would cut the brook back on the Jody Drive side, over the bridge to get a little more, because it's right in the bend and the thing. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things you could do that in field. We all have our.
We were planning that by armoring that stone, right? This is
Stop.
all in
Stop.
the dialogue. I'm sorry, but
Stop.
we're going to be back on this merry-go-round again. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're not helping your cause.
I understand that, but we're just trying to help him.
You're not helping them. So I'm just saying that, and I'm not going to demand anything as far as what you do there, because then all of a sudden, if it goes down on the next 500-year storm, you said this and you said that.
We want to be collaborative, that's.
So that's why the legal department said you put it in the form of an order. Aaron, you're going to be charged with talking to Janice and get this thing resolved. Either this order means that they can operate this way and can operate on this plan. I don't know what more to tell you than that. I mean, you're not going to wait for FEMA, or you may have them put the blocks back the way they were and not try to upgrade it, because that would be the maintenance factor. If he had done it, you know, I think if you had done it last August, you'd put them blocked back and we wouldn't be here tonight. I mean, I can talk more. You're looking at a ghost like you see a ghost, but unless you can tell us what to do tonight, legally, what to do, approve the scope? Approve what? This plan? Because what's going to happen if it doesn't get approved tonight, what's going to happen then? It's not going to work, it's not going to get done.
Correct, but I think Mr. Anderson and I also want a little more clarity. I think it's almost there. I think this plan is almost there. So I, for one, need a little more clarity how it might be improved for what Commissioner Heilman was saying, was looking for more drainage pipes behind instead of just the single one. Is that what you were looking for, Jim Heilman?
I've never seen a situation where they bring the drainage pipe in parallel with the foundation rather than perpendicular coming out every 8 feet, every other block.
Yeah, like
leaking from the
weeps.
bottom. I hadn't noticed that little 4-inch pipe. You should probably have 20 of them coming out the front wall every 8 feet. They don't have to be big, they don't have to be long, but you have a collection behind it, and then it weeps it out the front, so it relieves the pressure from building up. You build up the pressure behind that. Like I said, it looks like you got weepage out the front of that wall. No, you don't. The back side's closed, the back door's closed. And you got to open that up. And I don't think it's a good idea to expect the 4-inch pipe to take it the full horizontal length. Somehow you got to get it out the front of that wall, or you're going to find that thing blown out again. Look at the direction in which those blocks moved and try to imagine what force would have pushed them in that direction. They didn't go in the direction of the flow. They went perpendicular to the flow, which means the force was coming from behind the wall. That's a lot of water, and water will do that. I don't care if you block them all together. It'll move the whole thing. It's a tough situation, it really is. And I can't understand the law department all of a sudden wanting to show such interest in what environmentally here is not a major issue. Yeah, it's a ravine, but where's the big wetland that we're protecting here? It's an intermittent stream in a ravine. I don't know. It just seems rather unusual to me that it came in the direction and the way it did. But
If I could say, the Wetland Commission is in charge of approving any activity in a watercourse. So this is a watercourse. So that's how we get dragged into this, right? So I also want to go back, Commissioner Heilman. I really I didn't grasp why you thought this might be termed a significant activity. If this was an application, which it's not, but if it was, I don't see this as a significant activity.
well, neither do I, but I've had situations where I didn't think it was and others thought it was. No, I agree with you. I don't see this, but if you did, I mean, I was using a hypothetical because if you did, it creates a situation in law by our regulations on how we have to move forward. A certified, authorized engineer has to do the work.
Right, any application, not just significant impact, any application where there's a drawing, it has to be engineered, yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so that's just a hypothetical I brought up with regard to this. Would we look at something like this coming before our commission and not require an application? I don't think so. Whether or not we see it as significant or not depends on what the application is and what it may potentially do. No one knows what it will do, but it's a potential. Yeah, I think it could be done. I just think you need to have an address that would identify to us what happened, what the failure was. It was a failure. How are you going to make it different? You're not just going to put it back the way it was. You're going to do this, this, and this to change it. And then we can look at it and say, okay, it's changed. I hope it's a good improvement and not just an improvement for the sake of doing something different. That would be foolish. That's it.
I have one last question for you. All these destructive pictures that you gave us tonight, the footbridge is still in place. Why is that? It didn't wash away when the thrust of water came down through there. What prevented that bridge from being taken away?
I think, in my opinion, the fact the bridge was bolted down in place. There was support blocks on the far side, on the Jody side drive of the brook. It was bolted down in both places. I think the bridge actually prevented further damage.
You got to speak louder.
I think the bridge actually prevented further damage of any more wall being, block being moved, because the bolting of the bridge in place just anchored the blocks so they couldn't move.
But even the hand railings are up. It acts like there was no problem with water going down through there.
No, there was no, in to address the improvements, again, there was no drainage behind the original footprint. And the changes that we've outlined in the current proposal is putting drainage in there that wasn't initially there at all. So I think what we're looking at is this was a rare case of where the water did come up and breach the top block a little bit. So we tried to address that problem with the additional stone that Doug mentioned. So, and the other, that wasn't addressed before, or never has been addressed, because there never used to be rock there before. It was just land. And then there's drainage put in there that wasn't proposed to be changed, to put in there now, that was never there before. So we're already identified in the proposed plan to add drainage that wasn't there, to add rock on top of, in case there is a breach of water that comes over that block. It's going to dissipate and mitigate it. And that, with the point that you brought up about the bridge, is going to satisfy everything. So, and based upon, I've gone out there on every rainstorm, and I've looked at this thing over and over. And I think after talking to Doug and everybody else that's been out to the property, I think that, we've identified the problems, where the potentials of problems are, and I think we've addressed that in the current proposals that we put in, because nobody else took that kind of consideration into, analyzing this whole thing and seeing what's going on. Again, in with all due respect, I'm not an engineer either, but I have lived there since 1987. I have watched the brook activity over the years, and I could tell you that this was not a normal situation. It was a rare situation, and I think we identified the two problems, and we addressed them.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to act on it tonight, especially Erin made a comment that she's almost there working on it. So I think we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Okay. Other than that, the violations that have been, stay the same. No change there. I think that's pretty much for tonight.
Do we have to affirm that,
What are you going to do?
affirm the order?
No. Affirm this order? No. No.
Ask one other.
Microphone.
I may ask one other question. Can we be peacefully leave here tonight? Wait for the next month's meeting?
two of the commissioners want a more sophisticated plan to protect you against future rain, future storms. I don't know how to describe it any differently. Aaron doesn't know what we want. I'm not sure. We totally know, the solution. I think the bottom line is it's unfortunate that things are expensive, but I think the bottom line is we want a wall that you'll be proud of that'll stay up for the next 500-year storm.
And with all due respect, I mean, you're talking about over $100,000.
I don't disagree with you. That's why I say that's the ideal situation, and I don't think we're demanding that. That's would be the ideal situation. Okay. I don't know if you come back with the same plan you got this month, and see where that takes you, or something. Tweak it in. See if you can tweak it in, or see if you can make a few more lines on the plan. Make it possibly easier for us to follow, and you stay in contact with Aaron and see if you get clarity coming out of there.
Thank you.
At this time, then, this. I wonder if the Board of Education is back in track school. I don't know. Maybe it moved again. Okay, you must be right. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve or adjourn the meeting tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.